My apologies. Mr. Dines, I did not hear the recording acknowledge that the meeting is now being recorded. We're set to go? Very good. Thank you, sir. I hereby call to order this meeting of the King George County Board of Supervisors. Mr. Kusenberry, are there any amendments to the agenda?
No, ma'am, there are no amendments tonight.
Very good. Thank you, sir. We'll move on to public comment. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person in order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak. If comments relate to a specific public hearing item, we ask that you offer those comments at the time of the public hearing. And I would like to call first Zach Dove.
Do you need my name and address?
Yes, sir. If you could please state your name and address, and if you wish to do so, you may remove your mask while speaking. It's entirely up to you.
Name is Zachary Dove. Live at 4305 Chesapeake Place. Good evening, Board, Madam Chair, County Administrator. I would like to take a quick second to thank you all on the behalf of King George Professional Firefighters and Paramedics, Local 4438. We'd like to thank you for taking the steps that you have to bring us into a competitive market, as well as adding positions to help us further grow and protect the community. Many members listening tonight and those that I've spoken to on these topics are very excited for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much for coming out. I'd like to now call Chief David Moody, King George County Department of Fire Emergency Rescue Services.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. Just want to take a moment. Thank you for your support in this budget. I believe this budget addresses many of our recruitment and retention challenges. I think it brings King George County and our fire rescue department back into the marketplace. I'm very optimistic. I think we've been about 3 years that we've been struggling to maintain a competitive market, and this is going to turn the tides for us. Zach, I couldn't say it much better than what he just mentioned, but thank you for the support, and a well-staffed fire and rescue department means a safer county. And so thank you again, and God bless. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Don Shelton.
I live 9430 Ashburn Court, King George. My name is Don Shelton. Of course, most everybody know that I do not believe the monument on the courthouse lawn that is a memorial to the people who died. I don't want to move, but there's a team of people and lawyers working on that. But I have something else I want to speak to you about. I think it's time, in due consideration that the courthouse is moving, we're going to have that building to be used for a cultural center to honor all our history, the Indian history, the Black history. It's all very important. Those who served in the war, it has some great possibilities. So in deciding what to do with the courthouse after it's moved, please take that into consideration. I mean, Ralph Bunch over there, again, we just had a thing recently where the veterans of foreign war, they need a place to be. That is right there. Please keep that in mind and see if we make that work. I'm trying to get a group of people together. I'm going to talk to a lot of people, the group that is opposing the monument to move. I'm getting with them, see what they want to do to honor history. I've met them from several times and I understand why they had. But again, this monument is deeded. It is a memorial to those who died. Therefore, under the laws of this land, it is a tombstone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. Mr. Robert Ashton.
Yes, Robert Ashton, 14540 Ridge Road. Madam Supervising Board of Supervisor members. Once again, I'm Robert Ashton, coming before you regarding the Confederate Monument. The last time I was here, I read a statement of why I feel the Confederate Monument should be moved from its present location in front of a court of justice. I was very attentive to the responses of what the board members would say after members of the NAACP made their comments. Those responses to me sound like sound bites, which may be good for the public to hear, but clearly saying we are not going to take any action. You know, this is kind of like newsworthy, or really it's noteworthy that we continue to have inaction from the board. If I understand it right, it was stated by a couple of your members that there are legal issues that prevent the board from acting to remove the monument. We would like to know, the NAACP would like to know, what are those legal issues? What I have read is that Mr. Britton said the monument had been on private property before it was transferred to the courthouse in 1976. And it was lawfully placed there. If it was lawfully placed there on public property, why can't the board lawfully have it moved, since there's no deed or title associated with it, per Mr. Britton? It appears once again that the elected leadership of this county are being stagnant in responding to our request and removal. We continue to hear the board skipping around a valid issue that people of color have concerns for. On another note, I know what the history of slavery is, and I can see what it does to people. I do not need a lesson on it. What I need is action on an issue that is important to the minority of this community. If it is a memorial, remove it and relocate it to its proper place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ashton. Ms. Marcia Stonehill.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Supervisors of the Board. Marcia Stonehill, 17094 Ferry Dock Road. Regarding the Confederate Monument, have you asked your constituents their opinion on simply having the monument moved? The request from the NAACP is respectful and does not seek to dehumanize the people who are being memorialized. It is a request to relocate the structure from government-owned property to private property while sustaining and expounding upon the history. I remain in support of the NAACP request and know there are hundreds of others who also do not object, even if they don't fully understand why. Number 2, RBHC. In follow-up to the 4 points made in public comment on April 20th, the barriers encountered with the county during negotiations. In early negotiations, the county initially requested $10,000 per year to keep the building off the market during the fundraising stage. Though this may be a typical and even a generous business transaction when working with a developer, RBHC is not a typical strategy. The signed LOI reflects $1 per year lease during the stage of fundraising. Why did requests for thousands of dollars keep reappearing? The next appearance was for $4,000 per year, which did get negotiated down to $2,000 per year during fundraising. Additionally, the previous county attorney required consultation with a real estate attorney, and this expense was imposed on RBHC. RBHC eventually agreed to pay up to $3,000 toward that expense, even though the RBHC pro bono attorney was already absorbing much of the workload. The new county attorney seems to have eliminated that need for a real estate attorney. We thank you. Next, RBHC also actively sought to put a sign on the property of the RBH at Ralph Bunche High School property, similar to a 4x8 foot bidirectional V sign as part of our marketing strategy. We were informed by community development that we could not do this based on current ordinances. Period. No effort put forth to help us with this in any fashion. Keep in mind that we are volunteers providing professional services pro bono to raise $6 million toward a county-owned building. Granted that even though the negotiations include transferring the deed to RBHC when the milestones are met, the building and property will always be in the control of the county by the way the option agreement is written. It is very difficult to convince a donor that support is present from the county based on these experiences. Prospective donors are waiting to see what the county is going to do. How is the county going to help the process? Hence, the addendum list submitted to each of you with the LOI revisions for your consideration. We are seeking a cooperative effort as this will serve to motivate large donors to support such a worthy cause. I have many questions as to why it is so difficult to accomplish a cooperative effort to optimize the success of the RBHC strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stonehill. I do not have anyone else on the public comment sign-up sheet. Is there anyone else who joined us after I pulled the sheet that wishes to provide in-person public comment here this evening? All right, then we will move on to citizens online, Mr. Dines, who wish to provide public comment. You've just provided me a name, Melanie Oakes. Ms. Oakes, can you hear us, ma'am?
I sure can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am. You have 3 minutes, and if you could again state your name and your address.
Absolutely. Hi and evening. My name is Melanie Ox at 2295 River Drive. And thank you, Board of Supervisors, for the opportunity to meet with you in this manner. I appreciate it during this storm that's outside. I just have 3 quick comments. My first comment is actually in the support of NAACP. I do recommend that we try to find a new place for the Confederate Monument that's a more appropriate location other than in front of a courthouse where my children can see it and other children can see it and seeing what we as our county is representing then as justice for all. And so I hope you would do that for consideration. The second thing that I want to mention is actually in regards to the fire and rescue. I'm going to applaud Chief Moody and his efforts in reviewing the budget and in seeing that consideration for the budget. I agree with that statement as well. So just thank you all very much for working on that budget together. And then my third comment quickly is in regards to RBAHC. So I do agree with the comment presented by Marcia Stonehill. I know with my efforts in providing services along the way, I know I personally and we at RBHC personally seek a cooperative effort with the Board of Supervisors and with the county to review and provide a decent review of the letter of intent that was provided, along with that option agreement as well. So we look forward to that review. Thank you again for your time, and thank you all again for listening. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Ms. Ox. Anyone else join in, Mr. Dines? All right, then I will go ahead and close public comment, and we will move on to reports of members of the board. Mr. Granger, would you like to start us off?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Just like to say thank you to everyone for coming out with your comments. Appreciate you giving those and stating how you feel about all the states of everything going on in the county. Other than that, on Thursday, April 29th, had the REPA discussion with the FRA and the city of Fredericksburg. I know that the biggest concerns I think from the board was make sure that there were no costs like that they could incur for the county and they couldn't execute business that would obligate the county in some way. And so that is an accurate statement. They cannot. If they were to ever try to move into an agreement where there'd be any kind of revenue sharing even, that would have to come through the county as well. There are no upfront costs. There is a Go Virginia grant that helps to do with the setup, but like any committee, there are just maintenance costs, which they had kind of just quickly gone over along the lines of like insurance and auditing and things like that, which were fairly minimal. I didn't get an exact figure from them though, but so like any committee though, there is at least a little bit of cost just to help make sure that it's run. So just to give that to you. Forwarded on the draft ordinance to Mr. Britton again for him to, I know he reviewed it back in 2020, but for him to take the opportunity to review it again, and so that before we bring it to the board again to make a decision if we want to move forward with trying to move into this REFA. Other than that, on May 3rd, yesterday, attended an FRA meeting. Probably the biggest thing, they get more and more traction for a couple of years, trying to get the text transfer initiative going, which is the idea about bringing possible ideas on the base that could be turned into businesses, like patents that they could use off the base and then market commercially. And so it's been a lot of very difficult to get traction. Finally, getting some really good coordination with the base, their office. They've had some turnover in that office, and so I think that now there's some stability there, and so the FRA is getting a little bit more traction there. Also, the FRA has made the decision to offer to Captain Plu an ex officio non-voting member position on the FRA board, just for everyone's edification as well. So that's all I have, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Granger. Mr. Stonehill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for everybody coming out. It's the monument is definitely something that we're going to look at and see. It's not something that's going to, we're not going to put it off in the back burner. I mean, we're definitely going to address it. It's just a matter of time getting through this budget cycle and getting everything calmed down. We're certainly going to look at it, I'm sure. Mr. Dove, Chief Moody, yeah, it was a long time coming. I'm glad that we could be able to do that. Sheriff Giles as well. And I think it was a very good package for everybody on both sides of the house over there. So thanks for all you guys do all the time. I was contacted last week and this week by the folks who are building their bridge, and their media folks. They had come to me in reference, sending out some media stuff in reference of boats slowing down on the Potomac, since it is now getting into boating season. And they had said that they are now enforcing the no wake zone, which is a half a mile on either side of the bridge. So Maryland DNR, Coast Guard, and MTA police are enforcing that, and they had asked to pass that along and put it out on social media to slow down. And the no wake zone means the slowest possible speed to maintain steerage. So they had passed that along. I also did stop off down their bridge on our side to check and see what was going on. It's a fascinating process. I mean, just what they're doing down there is great. So, and then I was also contacted by a couple of folks in reference to lack of broadband or slow broadband. So been looking at that, talking to some of the folks at Atlantic Broadband about seeing what they can do. And then actually today I was contacted, there's a grant or a batch of money, I think it's over $1 million, that a company has now, and they're looking to bring it to Virginia for rural broadband. So that's some information I'll share with you guys, and also Mr. Quisenberry, and go from there. But that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stonehill. Ms. Bender.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I want to thank everyone who came out, and Ms. Sox who spoke online, and I know everything you said was heartfelt. Thank you very much for coming out and speaking. I was honored to attend the VFW Post 12202 Sergeant Nicholas C. Mason Memorial. It was an institution ceremony. They honored 33 members that they inducted, including a gentleman who served in the Korean War all the way up to current conflict. And it was very honored to be part of it with two of my colleagues. And I want to congratulate everyone who was inducted into the VFW Foreign Legion Post. I think I got that right, Mr. Bush? Being a non-military. That's all right. Just was making sure I was saying it correctly. I met as a member of GWRC and their chairman this year. We adopted the Rural Transportation Plan, and that helps us decide in King George and Caroline different projects we can do. It just doesn't have to be roads. It could be bike paths, access over 301 to be able to get to the Gateway Shopping Center, different things, but it's centered just for King George and Caroline, the rural parts of GWRC, which is the George Washington Regional Commission. We also went over, updated the new census data, and the concern there is there's possible changes in the way they tell what's an urban district. And the problem with the definitions is that it could cut down on funding, especially in the Fredericksburg area for smart scale and other transportation projects. But right now it's just in discussion because all the data hasn't come out yet. I'm happy that we were able to help our first responder be competitive, to be able to have the best possible employees for our citizens when they need their help, no matter what it is, from a heart attack to, like myself, getting a cat out of a tree. So I want to thank everyone, though, for working together to get that happen, because it's really important that we take care of those that take care of all of our citizens. And I think that's all I got. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bender. Mr. Bush?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So first off, thank you to everyone who took the time to come out tonight and address this body. I know it's not easy getting up in public and on the record, so I greatly appreciate that. With that, governance is not easy. A governing body shouldn't, it happens, but a governing body should not make decisions based on feelings or emotions. There's a lot of legal concerns, impacts that take place from the decision that 5 people at a dais make. There are legal issues. There's also reviews to make sure that there's a well-informed, thorough decision that eventually would be made. So regarding the monument, regarding the Arts and Humanities Center, I will defer to legal counsel and the county administrator to provide us with the most up-to-date information we have to move forward on both of those issues. This past Saturday, I had the honor to speak at the Veterans of Foreign Wars Sergeant Nicholas Mason Memorial Post 12202. I want to commend their commander, Alex McKenna, who stood up a VFW and brought it back to King George in record time. There are 33 plank owners that took their oath to join the VFW on that Saturday. It was very, very impressive, and they couldn't have picked a better legacy to honor than Nick Mason. I was honored to be able to sit on the field along with the Mason family, and I'm just truly honored to have had that opportunity. The VFW coming back to King George is very critical. We have a unique population where we have many retired veterans, we have many who have served, and they choose to live in King George. And having just experienced what it's like to transition from 20 years of active duty into the private sector just a year ago, it's difficult. I'd rather go to boot camp all over again than have to retire again. Paperwork is tremendous. The process with the VA is horrible. It took a year for me to get a determination on my disability rating. But it's organizations like the VFW, like the American Legion, that are there to liaison for our fellow servicemen and women. So I'm really happy to see the VFW back active in King George County. And hopefully between them and the American Legion, our veterans can find a larger support network here in King George County. Madam Chair, that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. So I want to start by thanking everyone who came out to provide public comment this evening. I want to first acknowledge Mr. Dove and Chief Moody. Thank you very much for your comments, expressing your appreciation. I, as you know, Chief, got to see firsthand the very excellent response by your department as well as Sheriff Giles' department when I called in a motor vehicle accident head-on into a tree last week and waited for you all to respond to take care of our citizens. So I greatly appreciate everything you do to keep our community safe. Mr. Shelton, thank you very much for, and Mr. Shelton I see is not here. I believe he has left, but I will acknowledge and thank him for coming out and providing his comments. Mr. Ashton, Ms. Stonehill, and Ms. Ox online. Thank you very much for providing your comments regarding the Confederate monument. And Ms. Stonehill and Ms. Ox, again, for additional comments regarding RBAHC. I would like to report that on Wednesday, April 21st, myself and Mr. Kusenberry attended a follow-up meeting with the members of the King George Branch NAACP regarding a number of issues, particularly the formation of the working group for the Diversity Advisory Committee. And I just want to remind the public, just as was seen this evening, public comment is an opportunity for public comment is provided at the beginning of every Board of Supervisor meeting. Monday, April 26th, I participated in Representative Rob Whitman's broadband fireside chat with FCC Commissioner Symington regarding rural broadband issues. And a key takeaway was to pair American Rescue Plan stimulus funding as the local match for any state broadband grant opportunities you may have. So we may have an opportunity, since it appears that much of that stimulus funding is now retroactive all the way back to March 13th, 2020. If the board chose to do so, we could. Just a suggestion. I'll skip down to Saturday, May 1st. With Mr. Bush and Ms. Binder, attended the formal installation of King George VFW Sergeant Nicholas C. Mason Memorial Post 12202 at King George High School. I wish to commend them, and just another great way to honor one of our native sons. Upcoming, Friends of the Rappahannock will host another litter cleanup day with us in conjunction with landfill staff on Saturday, May 8th, focusing on Comorn Road, and there is a link on their website to sign up if you would like to volunteer. I believe that is everything I had for my board report. Thank you very much. Move on to consent agenda.
Move to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Constitutional Officers Report. We have Sheriff Chris Giles here with us this evening. Welcome, Sheriff Giles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. For my Constitutional Officers Report, I'd like to take this opportunity to say just how much I appreciate you as a board and your unwavering support for our public safety employees. Without your support, we could not do the job that we were hired to do. Your attention to the hiring and retention issues have not gone unnoticed. Currently, I have 5 deputies that are attending the academy. In my career here as the King George County Sheriff's Office, I have never seen 5 deputies in the academy at one time. And this is a testament to the effort that you all put forward in combination with the fire department and the sheriff's office to make that happen. So tonight, I just want to say thank you from myself and the rest of the sheriff's office for the effort that you put forth. And again, it doesn't go unnoticed. So thank you. And that's all I have for my report.
Thank you, sir, very much. Moving on to report of the county attorney, Mr. Britton.
Just one thing, Mr. Granger did forward me that, and I just wanted to tell him, and in response to his comment, I did give comments in October, I think it was, of 2020. I don't know if they were forwarded because we didn't go forward with it. And I did look at it again and make those comments and forward it on as well for the Rappahannock briefing.
Thank you, Mr. Britton. Any questions from members of Mr. Britton? No? Mr. Bush, did you have something?
That's the shortest report I can recall you giving.
Thank you.
Not a question, but thank you, Mr. Bush. All right, then. Thank you, Mr. Britton. We will move on to public hearings. Proposed second amendment to the tower lease between the county and SBC Tower Holdings, LLC. The King George County Board of Supervisors will now hold a public hearing that has been properly advertised to receive public input regarding a proposed second amendment to the tower lease between the county and SBC Tower Holdings, LLC. I will first ask for the staff report. I will then open the floor for public comment. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker in order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak. Please state your name and address before you comment. Upon completion of public comment, I will bring the matter back to the board for consideration. The board may or may not take action tonight, depending on information received during public comment. And I believe, Mr. Britton, you're providing the staff report for us on this matter?
Yes, Madam Chair. It's
Very good, sir.
about an hour and a half. This tower lease goes back as, and I also did a memo on it that's included in the packet. This goes back to a series of leases to 1997, and there have been, as with communications companies, subleases, buyouts. I'm sure that if you have a cell phone, you know that one day somebody owns it, another day another company is offering you a better deal on it. You name it, that happened here. We were notified sometime last year that they wanted to renegotiate their lease. And I noticed that the lease was for a bit larger piece of land with a bit less money. So I spoke with Dr. Young at the time, and we're trying to get to the bottom of it. And the bottom line is that the only tenant on this tower is us, and we don't pay them. So they have not been able to, for whatever reason, get other tenants, so that they were, as the lease ran up, they were just going to get out of it. And there's a tower on it that was built, and we get free use of it. So they asked for a bit of a smaller rent payment to us, and a bit more space, because they need to expand their footprint a little bit in order to attract more people. I did get on with the council and negotiated, I think with Dr. Young as well, and their council, as well as their representative, a 5-year rate guarantee, payment guarantee on the lease. So we reviewed it, and I went over it again as recently as last week or 2 weeks ago with their lawyer handling it as well. And basically, if we don't do this, they're going to be having to get out of the lease and shut it down and pull the tower, which is our equipment's on it. So I can't recall re-reviewing it with Travis, but certainly Dr. Young was in favor of it when this came up, and this has been in the works for a while. Last thing is, obviously, there needs to be a public hearing, because this is an adjustment to a disposition of real property, which includes both sale and leasing. So we could buy real property, acquire without a public hearing, but you can't dispose of it, including leases, as you all know. And that's why we're holding a public hearing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, then. I'll now open the floor.
Well, I apologize. There is one other thing. I'm sure Mr. Bush expected that. Just take about 15 minutes. I did put in the documents it took a while to go back and find all this stuff. So I went ahead and put in the packet. I know it made it longer, but all of the documents going back to each of the iterations of all the leases. So if this comes up again and you all need to discover it, we can just look right in the motions book.
Thank you, Mr. Britton. So I'll now open the floor for public comment. As a reminder, public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Do we have anyone here in the boardroom who wishes to provide public comment on this matter? Mr. Dines, do we have anyone online? Do we have any written statements? My colleagues, anyone receive any written statements? Mr. Kusenberry, did we receive any written statements in administration? Very good. So I will now close the public hearing, and we will go ahead and bring the matter back to the board for consideration. Do we have any questions, or would anyone like to go ahead and entertain a motion?
I move to execute the lease amendment as presented.
Madam Chair, thank you. You caught a typo that I've corrected. King George County VA was King George County CA, so it was California instead of Virginia, and that's the level you're reading these documents. I appreciate it. I apologize. but I guess it was sent to us that way and I didn't catch it. So I have amended that. So if Mr. Granger would be amenable to amending his motion as amended to correct the King George County address.
I move to amend my motion to correct the King George County address as presented by County Attorney Pat Britton.
Second.
Any further discussion? So I didn't call for them separately. No questions for Mr. Britton regarding the matter. All right, then we have a motion properly seconded. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Britton. All right, presentations and reports. We don't have any of those, so let's move on to action items. Department of Emergency Services for Life grant funding through the Virginia Office of Emergency Medical Services. Chief Moody, welcome back.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, members of the board, this action item is for the For Life grant through the Virginia Office of EMS. Back in February, our department was informed we'd be receiving $29,364. This action would be to accept the grant, appropriate and amend the FY21 budget in the amount of that $29,364 and authorize expenditures. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? No? Is there a motion?
Move to accept Office of EMS For Life grant in the amount of $29,364.40. Appropriate and amend for the fiscal year 21 budget in the amount of $29,364.40 and authorize expenditures as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Stonehill, did you? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thanks, Chief.
All right, thank you.
All right. County Administration adoption of proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 operating budget. Mr. Kusenberry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This item is to adopt the FY 21-22 operating budget in a total amount of $97,401,473. The Board of Supervisors held a public hearing on April the 20th. And following that public hearing, the consensus of the board was to reduce the local funding for the school division from $18,229,917 to $18 million. So the amended budget before you tonight is going to show the total school operating fund being reduced from $49,258,191 to $49,028,274, and the contingency, which is the unobligated expenditures, being increased from $60,000 to $160,000, and the capital improvement fund being increased from $1,998,141 to $2,128,058. I'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Questions? Any questions? So I just wanted to take a minute and recognize your efforts as well as the efforts of our Department of Finance. Ms. Hahn, Ms. Cobb, we had to scramble, it seemed, at the beginning there, but you all sure got us to the finish line promptly, and we very much appreciate all the hard work you put into this budget. So thank you very much for that. All right, then I'll entertain a motion.
Move to adopt the fiscal year 2021-2022 operating budget in the total amount of $97,401,473 as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? So I do have one thing I do want to offer, just to put out there, because when we had our public hearing last meeting, I did myself personally make mention of the possibility of American Rescue Plan funding that the schools might have at their disposal. And at that point in time, we were not aware of the dollar amount. However, I do want to let the public know that on this past Friday, April 30th, Superintendent's Memo 110-21 had a table with the American Rescue Plan Act Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief ESSER 3 Fund allocations from the Virginia Department of Education. And King George County Public Schools, as of that date, April 30th, new stimulus funding was made available in the amount of $2,053,000 and $326,076. Let me read that again. $2,053,326.76. That's available immediately for our schools to take advantage of. And the total anticipated funding, there will be a second tranche subject to a grant process, it sounds like, later this summer. So the total anticipated funding that could be available to our schools is $3,079,990.14. So I just want to make the public aware of that we do have, we had a feeling it was going to be large, but we do have a solid grasp on the number at this point in time. So we have a motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Kusenberry. Next item, adoption of proposed tax rates for calendar year 2021.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Also on April the 20th, the board held a public hearing regarding the proposed tax rates for calendar year 2021. Following the public hearing, the majority of the board, the consensus of the board was to keep the tax rate for calendar year 2021 as proposed at 73 cents per $100 of assessed value for real estate and 73 cents per $100 of assessed value for mobile home tax. The personal property tax and the machinery and tool tax did not change over the current fiscal year. I'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the King George County Board of Supervisors adopt the following tax rates for the calendar year 2021. Real estate tax, 73 cents per 100 assessed value. Mobile home tax, 73 cents per $100 assessed value. Personal property tax, $3.50 per $100 assessed value. And machinery and tools tax at $2.50 per 100 assessed value.
Second.
Any further discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Bush.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So last time we approached this after the public hearing, I was trying to convey the thoughts of lowering our advertised tax increase from 3 cents to 2 cents. I believe we still have the capacity to do that. We would still have to find another $41,000 in the county's now adopted budget. But I believe that, you know, the comments and the discussion was valid. We don't know what we're expecting on the cigarette tax, and we have some of our budget levied against that. However, looking at it, I believe it was a very conservative value placed on what we are anticipating to get. Just going to Sheetz this morning to get my pack of cigarettes, there was a fleet of people buying 5 cartons at a time. I believe we're going to exceed that 4 million in change estimate of what we're going to receive. But the concern is valid. You don't base a budget on unknowns. But I believe that if we wound up in a position where we would have to have a buffer, or if there was a shortfall, I would rather look internally into the county's budget and some of the things we have identified and make cuts on our side instead of placing that additional cent on the taxpayers. For most taxpayers, that's what they have to deal with. They have to deal with our real estate tax, mobile home tax, whatever. But there are also residents who are customers of the service authority. They're also going to be realizing a rate increase this year, along with the tax increase, in a very difficult year for some of our King George families that have lost their jobs based on the last economy. So again, I would like to make one more proposal to my colleagues before we take a vote. I know the motion's on the table, it's seconded, but I wanted to wait till the appropriate time to have the discussion. I would like your consideration to lower our tax rate from a 3-cent increase to a 2-cent increase, bringing the real estate tax and the mobile home tax to 72 cents as opposed to 73. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. So, Mr. Kusenberry, I have a question. Your board report for this previous action, it does state an increase in contingency from 60,000 to 160,000 and an increase in the capital improvement fund from $1,998,141 to $2,128,058. So we just took that action that was our prior action. So that funding, my understanding, has already been reallocated. So we've missed the window to send that somewhere else, is my understanding, but please correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct. The board did vote on the budget that had those adjustments.
Okay. So we have a motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Bush.
So this will be a question for Mr. Quincyberry. So we took action and we moved those funds, but we can always lower our budget. We can't increase it. So the board could take further action to decrease that amount, correct?
I believe that is correct, that you can reduce the budget.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? We have a motion properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Mr. Kusenberry, please let the record show, record the vote as 3-2 with Mr. Bush and Ms. Binder, nay.
Will do.
Thank you, sir. All right. One more item for you, sir. Adoption of personal property tax relief rate for calendar year 2021.
Yes, ma'am. This is what you do every year. The county receives the same amount of money for personal property tax this year that they received since 1998. It's a little over $2 million. That's distributed among all the qualifying vehicle owners. One correction in my board report noted that the law changed in 2016 that increased the gross weight of vehicles from 7,501 pounds to 10,000 pounds, but it has to be owned by an individual. So the tax relief percentage for calendar year 2021 will be 28%.
Any questions from members? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. You have the paper.
I move that the King George County Board of Supervisors establish 28% as the rate of personal property tax relief for the calendar year 2021.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Kusenberry. We have no discussion items, so we'll move on to County Administrator's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first item I included in the board's packet, a letter I received from Gregory Slater. He's the chairman of the MTDA authority regarding retaining a portion of the existing Nice Bridge for water-related recreational purposes. And in his letter, he set forth some parameters that would have to be discussed regarding retaining a portion of that bridge.
Any questions from members? Go ahead, Ms. Bender.
I just have one question, and it relates to it but doesn't. Was there still further discussion with, if we didn't do fishing pier, having little pieces of it to put like at the Smoot Library, and since
I wasn't aware that that was.
gotcha,
it was
that was Mr. Britton I had communicated with last year. And for the public, what I had asked, since Mr. Smoot had his, I guess it was his mine, helped mine the materials that made the bridge, to have a little piece to put in the library and maybe at the Historical Society in the county building, because he is a part of King George.
I believe that Dr. Young had those discussions about when it was just the fishing pier discussions and that was going on, but it was, no one knew that the fishing pier, resolution of that, so that was in the very back burner. I don't recall seeing anything from MDTA, at least not forwarded to me by Dr. Young or otherwise, regarding whether we'd be able to keep or obtain in some way for historic and or other whatever purposes that the county wanted to do within the county. So if it was, it would be in Dr. Young's correspondence. It wasn't forwarded to me.
Thank you. I was just wondering how the board would feel about that. It'd be just a little piece that could be, was that something, how we would go about doing that?
So consensus of the board, Mr. Bush?
Sure.
All right, and Ms. Bender, we know how you feel. Thank you for suggesting it. Mr. Stonehill?
Absolutely.
Mr. Granger?
If they're amenable to letting us have a piece, sure, why not? But if it's a lot of money or time or something along those lines, that's not worry about it. But I don't imagine it would be.
Thank you. All right, so there's your direction, sir. Thank you.
Good.
Any other questions or comments, gentlemen? No? Okay. I didn't particularly have much to say about this. I know Mr. Stonehill and I tried to champion this idea of retaining a section of the bridge to be used as a fishing pier, and this, I believe, fairly closes out the consideration of that. So we have an answer. So thank you for that, Mr. Kusenberry.
All right.
And then if you'd like to go ahead and move on with your capital projects update.
Yes, just a couple of updates. Cedric Crossing, that project was scheduled for the asphalt material to be applied on Friday and Monday. So hopefully if the weather still cooperates, we can finish that project by next week. The King George Elementary School roof, I got the bid package ready. We'll be working with purchasing to get that project advertised. Mr. Weekly reported on the annual engineering service contracts. We're going through that process of interviewing firms, and probably the first meeting in June, we will have a recommended list of engineering firms for the board to consider offering contracts to. And the last item is the courthouse. I know Ms. Bender has been keeping the board updated on the status of the courthouse oversight committee. Based on a phone call I received from the architect last week, they were ready to move forward with requesting proposals for hiring a contractor for the project. So we're getting that process started. However, the cost estimate is over budget. So what the architect has done is to go back and reduce the square footage from a little over 50,000 square feet by 4,000 square feet. We will include that in our solicitation package. And after we hire the contractor based on the interviews and the selection process, we will work with that contractor to bring this project in within budget.
Any questions? Go ahead, Mr. Bush.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Travis, when they were proposing this and it's coming in over budget, is that based on material costs that are increasing?
That's exactly what's doing it. Yes.
Okay, so or if we were looking at contract and getting this done, are we locked into a certain rate for materials, or would that be flexible, let's say, from what they're estimating now for material cost versus what the market is going to be for materials down the road when they actually start construction, because I believe hopefully it's going to go down, with COVID coming, to a standstill, or not a standstill, wrong words, please don't quote me, with COVID tapering downward, and hopefully things getting back to normal, then hopefully those prices will get back to reality. So is there flexibility in that, to where, are we in a position right now basically where we have to cut 4,000 square feet, or can we ride this out for a little bit?
No, you do not have to make that decision yet. In fact, that's the advantage of the process we're using, this construction manager at risk process, because we bring the contractor in at the 30% design phase versus traditional contractings where you have a bid package and you hire the low bidder. So during from the 30% phase to the 100% phase, we'll be working with that contractor to hopefully find ways we can maybe use different materials and reduce the cost so that we can get a 50,000 square foot courthouse. One thing that we will have, once we finish this process, we will have a maximum price, basically a not to exceed price from the contractor.
All right, we have a motion, and we'll stand by a moment here before we move for closed session.
I move that the King George County Board of Supervisors convene in closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code, Section 2.2, 3711A, 5, 6, and 8, for discussion concerning a prospective business or industry, or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or the industry's interest in locating or expanding its facility in the community, discussion or consideration of the investment of the public funds where competition or bargaining is involved, where if made public initially, the financial interests of the government unit would be adversely affected, and pursuant to VA Code Section 2.2, 3711A, 7, and 8, for the purpose of consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to the actual probable litigation regarding Sedgwick Crossing, where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body in consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by public body regarding specific legal matters requiring provisional and legal advice by such counsel. I invite the county administrator, director of community development, Mr. Minor, and county attorney, because they are deemed necessary and or their presence will reasonably aid the board in its consideration of the topics to be discussed pursuant to VA Code Section 2.23712F.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. We are in closed session. Do we have a motion?
I move that the King George County Board of Supervisors return to public meeting and certified by vote that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law, and only such public business matters were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered during the closed meeting.
Second.
Also certify, please.
So certify.
So certify.
So certify.
Certify.
Chair so certifies. We are in open meeting. Do we have another motion? Or I'm sorry, a recommendation, Mr. Kusenberry?
Yes, Madam Chair. I recommend that the Board of Supervisors authorize the county administrator to issue a purchase order for professional services associated with tax map 33 parcel 92 in an amount not to exceed $18,000 and to be funded from county contingency.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Do we have another motion?
Move to adjourn until May 18th at 6:30 PM in the board.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
See you at 8:30.